Okay, I would like to call to order the regular meeting of December the 10th, 2014, and I will ask all of us to rise for O Canada. I got some competition here. I'll ask Dr. Patterson to do roll call, please.
Trustee Armour.
Present.
First Vice Chair Karkner.
Present.
Trustee Cram.
Present.
Trustee Garrow. Trustee Bill McPherson. Trustee Wendy McPherson.
Present.
Trustee McAllister.
Present.
Second Vice Chair McDonald.
Present.
Chair McMillan.
Present.
Trustee Richards.
Present.
Trustee Swan.
Present.
Student Trustee Shayla Cruz.
Present.
Now we heard the name, so Trustee Garrow
Yeah, present.
and Trustee Bill McPherson.
Present.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you very much, Director. Before we begin and I move into the agenda, I want to thank everyone who is here tonight. The most important thing all day long that's been on my mind is the personal safety of everyone. So I thank you for being here. Those of you that are on the phone lines, thanks for making the decision and putting your safety first. You know, when I look out now and I see a lot of empty spots, there's nothing nicer than seeing everyone's face at the board table, but there are times that this will happen and we have to call in. So what this does is it presents a little bit of a challenge for me as the chair. So those of you that are online, what I'm going to ask you to do when we come to questions and comments, if you would like to make a comment or ask a question, will you just say your name? For example, you know, Trustee McAllister, say it out loud, and then I'll know or recognize online that you want to make a comment or add a question. Okay? That's right. Sorry about that. We have members of the senior team who are on the telephone lines, and we have members of the senior team that have braved the elements and are here. So again, thank you so much. But personal safety is the most important part of tonight, not only during the meeting, but getting home. Okay, I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, December the 10th, 2014, as amended. And the amendment is we have removed two items, the Drummond Central School School Success Plan presentation and the Front of Young School Success Plan presentation, which will be rescheduled another time. So I need a motion to accept the agenda. Moved by Trustee McAllister. Trustee Cram. Then I'll ask you to cast your votes online. We'll see how this works. Trustee Wendy McPherson, do you see that on your page?
Okay, I apologize. Okay,
No.
there we are.
No
I
problem.
see it.
This is just a really good test to make sure it's working.
There-
Perfect. So that everyone's in favor?
Okay, thank you.
That's no problem. Any conflict of interest? Seeing there are none, I need a motion to move into the committee of whole for discussion on the agenda of items. Trustee Karkner, seconded by Trustee McAllister. Again, cast your votes, please. And everyone's in favor. This moves us on to the first item on the list. And this is dealing with course selection. And in December 2014, we're taking a look at a request that was made. It was a motion that was passed on June 18th, 2014, asking for some information in terms of how it's actually a recommendation follow-up to course selections, and I'm going to turn this over. Director, do you want to talk first, or you want to go straight to Superintendent Phil Dawes?
I think I will just go directly to Superintendent Phil Dawes, and I believe that Superintendent Allen will be participating, and I assume she's on the line as well. So I'll turn it over to Superintendent Dawes.
Okay. Thank you, Director, and thank you, Chair. Again, I'll start things off, and perhaps Superintendent Allen will join in. Again, this is in response to a board motion last June asking for an update on the current state of the availability of courses and the course selection process that we use in our high schools. So to address this, we've provided you with several information sources. One of them is, we've got up on the screen, is a breakdown of the number of course sections in each of our high schools in comparison to the October 31st, 2014 head count in each of those schools. And there's a number of things we can draw from this data. You'll notice that we've broken down for each school the enrollment and course selections from a grade 9 and 10 perspective, and then a grade 11 and 12 perspective. The reason for that is we wanted to remind trustees that our small schools really are limited from the outset by the necessity of providing compulsory courses in grade 9 and 10. And of course, all of those course selections are based on enrollments in our schools. So our small schools are certainly hindered to a certain degree by the number of courses they can provide due to low enrollments. And so when you look at this on a school-by-school basis, you can compare one school against the other, but you can also look at how the course sections break down between grades 9 and 10 and grades 11 and 12. So after a school is able to provide the compulsory courses for grades 9 and 10, what's left over really is represented as the amount of flexibility from additional course sections. Interesting to note that over on the far right of this table, we've provided what we call an enrollment course sections ratio. And the reason we did that is we wanted to, again, draw the conclusion around how enrollment is driving these sections. And you can see, if you look at it on a school-by-school basis, overall, there's a very strong relationship between the enrollment and courses allocated. There's not much of a difference in that course enrollment and sections ratio between schools. The other things we can note as an example of how this relates to course sections is a comparison of our highest and lowest schools. For example, TIS has a total section allocation last October of 129, and it also has the highest enrollment with a head count of 799. Our lowest sections by school are Rothwell Osnabrück and Athens School at 26 sections and 30 sections, and both of these schools also have the lowest enrollments at 143 and 167 students respectively. So we can see that our schools really are doing the best that they can to respond to ongoing low enrollments. We are a low enrollment school board, and we have been seeing ongoing enrollment decline in our high schools as well. with the aging of the echo boom working through our system, and this causes some challenges for schools as well. From there, what we wanted to show you is how this relates to the actual process that our schools work through annually to determine sections in their schools. And if Lisa could move forward to the flow chart we provided. You can see that there's a fair amount of give and take required from schools and systematically to make sure that we get as best possible the sections in our schools that meet student need, but also recognize the realities associated with low enrollments, declining enrollment, and the challenges in providing opportunities to students based on an ADE-driven staffing formula. But really, this course selection process starts more or less now. We've got schools now that are starting to develop their classroom courses through a calendar, and that calendar is printed and posted online by around January normally. From there, the school staff populates their planned course codes into My Blueprint, which is the board's online course selection system. From there, in February, students select their courses directly through My Blueprint, and that's available through home or school support from guidance and parents. And then we get into the March and April process where principals begin to review requests by students and make decisions about what courses can be offered. And this is particularly important in our growth of e-learning and an overall systematic e-learning strategy for the board. From there, the ONSYS team imports course selections from My Blueprint into PowerSchool, and principals from there run a course tally report from PowerSchool based upon the number of requests from students for particular courses. And then by May, the staffing allocations are provided, and then we get into the actuality of students as they enroll in our schools in September. So it really is somewhat a theoretical exercise until the students actually show up in September. And we've got the challenge in our board, of course, of trying to maximize our efficiencies on the allocation of course sections while also meeting compliance with course class cap requirements through our collective agreements. So I'm pleased to inform the board that I feel like we really are moving forward with a deeper strategy on how we can get even better efficiencies and opportunities for students in sections availability. We had actually a system day a couple of weeks ago, November 28th to be precise, with all of our secondary school principals to talk about timetabling and to start to prepare now for what they can offer in the way of course sections through My Blueprint and eventually on through PowerSchool applications. Looking at it also from a systematic e-learning perspective. So we know as we grow as a board with e-learning opportunities, we're going to be able to provide more and more opportunities to students from low enrollment schools to access courses that they wouldn't normally be able to access because there isn't enough students available in the school to provide the efficiencies that we need based upon an ADE-driven staffing formula. So we feel very good that we're moving forward in a systematic way to address what we can in the way of course offerings, but we also have to be realistic that we are a system of small high schools, and that limits our abilities overall to provide the maximum number of course sections that we perhaps might like to do in comparison to larger schools from larger school boards. Thank you.
And Superintendent Allen, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Is there anything else would you like to add anything to that?
Yes, just as Superintendent Dawes highlighted, a lot of work and pre-planning goes into the courses being offered at the schools. And one of the strategies over time that our principals and guidance counselors have been using is the rotation of some of the compulsory courses, where they plan up to 2 years ahead. For example, perhaps senior sciences, there might be a senior chemistry and senior biology or senior physics, and they rotate those so that the students know that they can get those courses in a sequence of time. And because there wouldn't be enough students to be filling a class in them each year, so it's in the course calendars a couple of years ahead of time. And I think that the work that we've been doing, bringing all the principals of the secondary schools, principal and vice principals together, that we are working together as a full team towards this approach and really enhancing our e-learning strategy as part to enhance our course selections as we move forward. That's it, Chair.
Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to open it up to questions and comments. Trustee McAllister?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Superintendent Dawes. This issue, I may have missed something here, but this issue was raised by our former chair, Petersma, and his concern at that time was the fact that students were presented with unexpected changes or unavailability of courses, even though they had planned. I understand the process year to year, I understand the course rotation, but I don't see how this report addresses that issue. And like, how are our schools addressing student needs? And I know e-learning is one option, but the reports that I get from parents is that e-learning requires a tremendous amount of discipline, and that it's that the rate of success is not that great. And I'm wondering what we can do to bolster those students who are availing themselves of e-learning opportunities. And on a larger scale, I think that there might be some opportunities here to take a good look at the delivery of courses on a broader basis, on a campus approach. For example, a teacher in Athens may be able to teach senior chemistry via Skype, etc., to a greater number of students in similar situations with similar problems in different schools. I realize that there are many constraints there, not the least of which is collective bargaining and contracts and whatnot. I do think, though, that the dialogue, it's ripe to open that dialogue right now. So I'm just suggesting to you, I guess, Chair, that this really doesn't address the concern that was raised back in June or whatever this was. Sorry.
No problem. Trustee Carter?
Through you, Chair, just if Superintendent Dawes can tell me, how do I know which ones are e-learning courses and which ones are not?
Through you, Chair. Admittedly, we don't have that information for you tonight. It is embedded within all of the course sections that we provided for you on that table, and perhaps we could get back to you a more detailed presentation of where those e-learning courses are actually provided right now.
Thank you. Can I call?
You certainly can, Director.
I think Superintendent Dawes referenced this, but one of the things that we're really striving to do in preparation for the coming year is to offer our e-learning courses by design rather than by default. So in years gone by, we often, at the end of the process, when we realized we couldn't fit certain students into a course, we would create an online course. When you create that section at the end of the process, it limits what a school principal can do with regard to that section. So if we incorporate the online courses up front at the beginning of the process, and students are well aware what courses are being offered online, and perhaps they even have a choice. Oh, I enjoy an online experience. I will take it this way versus this way. And it could very well include students from other schools as well within our board. That just offers so much more. It offers more value in the timetabling process than adding a section at the end of the day when you realize your numbers are high and you can't meet the class cap or whatever the case might be. The other thing I might add is, and I don't have a breakdown with me, but in some of our online courses now, there are different models, right? So you could very well be doing an online course with support from a teacher in the school. And so it's not like an online course that I take through my local university or halfway across the world where I'm totally on my own. Those students oftentimes have support within the school to assist them in their success with regard to online learning. So that's a bit of a different model than I think one that we're that we perhaps traditionally know about.
Certainly.
I appreciate the clarification. And I think that there are really two issues here. One is the process of course selection. The other is the delivery of those courses. And I would frankly be quite receptive to a presentation, a more detailed presentation on e-learning and how it's occurring in our ward and how it can be improved, frankly. But when we're talking about one of the things that is lacking here with regard to the course selection process is the fact that we have now students in 7 to 12. Our transition schools are well positioned to begin the process not this year, but in grade 7. And so that schools can have a longer plan and a more realistic plan. And I think that needs to be addressed a bit further.
Through you, Chair, and I appreciate your comments, and I really think, Trustee McAllister, what you said earlier really is the vision that we're sharing on the development of e-learning. I'm sorry it's not coming through in this, but it is a work in process, and we've really just begun that process. A lot of what we're talking about is operational. Like in that, we're trying to improve the communication that's happening between schools and get an earlier start, as Director Patterson has indicated, in developing e-learning by design as opposed to by default. We really have only started on really deeply on that process with this meeting that we just had a couple of weeks ago. So I'm feeling really encouraged that we're getting more and more information and having sharing happening between schools that's happening earlier in the staffing process. But we also have to recognize that I think there will always be adjustments that are going to be required in the first week or two of school, because we simply can't get to that level of specificity where we can account for every single student, particularly in such small schools where a difference of just a few students actually has a large impact on the allocations. So our strategy is really in place. I think ultimately we could be getting to a point where we might have in place what other boards do, which is a common timetabling calendar right across every school in those divisions. Now, we haven't gone to that level of discussion or consideration yet, but that is a level of operations that some boards operate under, and I would say that's kind of the be-all and end-all beacon of what is possibly available to maximize the opportunities of e-learning courses and provide greater opportunities for our students in course selection choices, again, in some schools that are prohibitively small.
Thank you.
Through you, Chair?
Trustee Swan?
No, it's
Oh,
Superintendent Allen.
sorry, Superintendent Allen, sorry about that.
I also wanted to add as well that we are looking at ways to support students taking online courses, and one of the ways that Trustee McAllister had raised about potentially moving the instructor around so that the course can be offered in more than one site. We are looking at all those possibilities, and I think you're right. The time now is right, because as we start to look into this model a little more deeply, it is an opportunity, and we're also looking at ways to support the online learners in the buildings themselves, so they're not just it's their period for an online course and then you go down and work on it. So how can we support them within the school building? So we're generating some ideas there as well.
Thank you. Trustees online, comments, questions?
Trustee Richards?
Go ahead, Trustee Richards.
This September, one of the concerns at one of my schools was that the timetables didn't come out till the first day of school, and that caused problems when students weren't given the courses that they had requested, and they needed to make appointments with guidance, and sometimes it was a week to 2 weeks before they even got into the classes that they needed. Is that typical, that timetables come out the day of first day of school?
Through you, Chair. In response, I would suggest no, that's not a typical practice. You can see from the course selection process that schools are encouraged to develop their timetables early on in the process, as early as February or March. But I think there is a communication aspect to this as well that needs to become clearer in our communities to inform students that what they're asking for and we think we can provide in the way of section allocations or course selections may not materialize depending on how enrollments actually arrive through the doors in September. So again, I think that's something that we're working on. I think we're getting better at it. Timetabling is a rather tricky science. It's precise and loose at the same time. We're trying to encourage our students to participate in this process and get enthused about what's going to happen next year. We also need to recognize that our hands really are tied to do the best we can within a limited budget. So we're trying to find the best balance, and that's why we're working with our school principals and VPs to build the knowledge and capacity in this tricky area of school operations.
Any other trustees online?
Through you, Chair, it's Lisa Swan.
Yes, Trustee Swan.
I'm concerned about the French numbers in this course selection, and many of the students take French in 9 and 10 from the charts we've been provided, but they don't take French, or the courses aren't offered in 11 and 12. And I'm just wondering, what is our board doing towards improving this or encouraging these children to continue their French, which is very important with our proximity to Quebec and Ottawa?
Through you, Chair, I could respond to that.
Yes, go ahead, Superintendent Allen.
That is one of our board goals in French language, is to increase the number of students taking French courses through into secondary schools. The course offerings aren't there because the students, quite frankly, aren't choosing the French or to continue into French. Once they tend to choose a path, especially in the senior courses, they go into the more sciences or more maths, and they tend to drop the French language. So we are working actually right back at elementary school, trying to look at engaging students in the French, keeping it going through grade 7 and 8. That seems to be the time frame that students start to say, okay, I have a level of French I'm happy with, and take the required courses in secondary school, even if they've been in the French immersion strand. So we are definitely working through that, and we can bring you more information of the work that we've been doing. We just recently, as early as Monday, presented to the principals of some of the strategies that we're working through there, making the French courses engaging and proficient, making students, having them using the oral language and in a greater context than just the classroom setting to help them aspire to continuing on.
Thank you. Any additional comments, questions? Trustee McAllister?
It just strikes me as a good idea that we dialogue with students, perhaps, to find out what their concerns are or have been over, say, the past 3, if not 4 years in the system. Understanding, of course, that the compression of the school year from 5 years to 4 has certainly created tremendous pressure on the number of credits that are available to students. But anyway, I just throw that out for consideration.
I would like to just circle back to just the sort of the general discussion about course selection. And we've been doing a lot of work understanding the importance of students achieving 16 credits by the age of 16. In other words, being successful in their grade 9 and 10 education. And the prognosis that has with regard to earning a high school diploma. And one of the things that we also need to work on is ensuring that our course offerings in grade 9 and 10 are relevant and engaging for our young high school learners. Because if they are not engaged, or if they miss a credit in the early years of high school, it has significant impact on their success overall in high school. And so another piece of our timetabling discussions and work that we've done with our principals is while the grade 9 and 10 curriculum is fairly, it's sort of a prescribed, laid on curriculum, there is some flexibility there to offer a course that might be more appealing in the early years of high school. And whenever we can do that, it behooves us to do so in the interests of student success and a graduation rate. So that's something else that we're also working on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
A secondary, please. It's Lisa Swan.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee Swan.
My other question would be, in regards to the scheduling, I realize they use a computerized tool, if I'm correct, and I've had complaints from my small high school, in regards to easy courses first semester, and then you get the math, the science, and the chemistry the second semester, which is a very heavy load for somebody in the fourth year of high school. And I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do to kind of break up this load?
Through you, Chair, certainly something that we can look at. I'm not familiar with that challenge, but I'm not sure if Superintendent Dawes has any information in that regard.
Through you, Chair. No, I don't, although I'm interested in that, and it's certainly something based upon the work that we're doing and the approach that we're taking, we could start to look at and strategize a bit and assist schools with that, certainly.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think just listening to the discussion, it sounds very much like that we're in the early stages of planning this. And I'm wondering, well, actually I'm asking that we come back with a follow-up report again when we have more clarity in terms of more specific directions in this area, and giving us more clarity too on e-learning and how we plan on handling that.
Thank you, Chair. I'm sensing from the group that a little more information around our e-learning is where we'd like to go, and we'd be happy to provide that information to you.
And I think e-learning definitely is one part, but I think Trustee McAllister also alluded to the fact that there are other possibilities, other creative solutions to this, and I'm wondering if we can have that brought back to us in a report later on. So realistically, you're at the very early stages of this right now. At least that's what I'm sensing.
I mean, if you'd like an e-learning report, I think that can be provided to you in relatively short term. Alternative strategies, we'll have to put our mind to that, and we've been meeting. Well, I won't say regularly, but we've had a few meetings with regard to timetabling with our secondary principals, and there's a lot of good solutions coming out of those meetings, so I think we need a little bit more time to sort of to frame some of those solutions in a report to the board. I might also add that this also might tie in nicely with another item that's on the agenda, and that's the TR Leger review, because that's another alternative education strategy. So again, there will be that information will be coming forward in the later in the school year as well.
Okay, certainly, and I certainly appreciate the the direction of the e-learning and reporting back to us. But when I think back about the initial question, and you reminded me of that, Trustee McAllister, of what the former Chair Peterson's intent was of having this this report come forward, and I think e-learning is just one part. And so the e-learning, definitely we want to hear more, but I do want to hear about the options as well. So if we were to ask you to come back with March, would that give you enough time to give us both e-learning and an update in terms of some of the alternate?
Through you, Chair, I'm wondering, the next meeting we're going to be having with school principals and VPs on timetabling is going to happen early March. So I'm wondering if maybe a few weeks beyond that to allow us an opportunity to synthesize that information.
We should give you a little bit more leeway and look at sometime in May. And that way everything will have, okay, so in May we'll have you come back and give us a report, an additional follow-up and course selections in terms of not only e-learning but in terms of alternative approaches.
Chair, it's Trustee McDonald, point of
Yeah, go ahead, trustee McDonald.
I think if we want to ask administration for something, we need to be very clear, concise in what we're asking for, and we should frame it in a motion.
Okay. Trustee McDonald, do you want to bring a motion forward?
Well, based on what you've just described, I'd be happy to move the motion, but if we want to look for that
Okay.
report
Yep.
that's detailing e-learning,
Alternative?
Yeah, alternative, yep.
Yep. We're just pulling a motion together.
If I may, Chair,
Yes.
is asked that everybody identify themselves when they talk.
Oh, that was trustee McDonald. Sorry, this is trustee McPherson. Wendy
Yes, Trustee
McPherson.
McPherson here. Here I go telling you to identify yourselves, and I don't identify myself.
That's okay.
And I'm on the phone, and I'm not very familiar with everybody's voice, but if they, I would appreciate that.
I apologize. I should have done that. Okay, we're just working on the motion right now.
If you want to.
Pardon?
I have a motion if you want. Do you have it, Lisa, or maybe we can combine here, but.
Yeah, go ahead and read yours.
Be resolved that the director report back to the March meeting.
May.
Is it May?
Yeah.
In May, on two issues. One, the course selection process update, and the delivery of the alternate ways of alternate delivery methods, including e-learning. Does that make sense?
Okay, I've got the committee of the whole. As a motion that the director reports back at a May 2015 meeting on two issues: course selection process update and alternate delivery methods, including e-learning.
Through you, Chair?
Just hang on for a second. Trustee Swan, we're just getting one word added in here, and then I'll come back to you. There we go. That's what I knew was this thing. Okay, I'm just going to read this, and then Trustee Swan, I'll come back to you. Be it resolved, the committee of the whole direct the director bring back a report in the May meeting on two issues: course selection process update and alternate delivery methods, including e-learning. Trustee Swan, you wanted to say something?
I would also like the French piece added in as to how we are going to support our students following through in high school in French in the course selection process.
Yeah, that's a completely separate motion. Let's work this motion, and then we'll come back to you on that one. So, trustees, Trustee McPherson or McAllister, you're bringing forth a motion that the committee of the whole direct the director to bring back a report at the May 2015 meeting on two issues: course selection process update and alternate delivery methods, including e-learning. I need a seconder.
I'll second it.
Trustee McDonald. Okay, now comments? Questions? Seeing there are none, I'll call a vote.
I'm in favor. I just lost it here.
Yeah, I'm not getting it.
I'm not getting the vote.
No, none of us are. We'll just give it a second. Trustee Armour, in favor?
Yes.
Trustee Cartner, Trustee Kremp, in favor? Trustee Garrell? In favor?
Favor.
Thank you. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
In favor?
Trustee Bill McPherson? Trustee McDonald?
I'm in favor.
Trustee Susan Richards?
In favor.
Trustee Swan?
In favor.
And I'm in favor, so that passes. Trustee Swan, you wanted to bring forward a motion dealing with French issues?
Well, I'd like to have a report brought back to the board on how we are going to further engage our students so we aren't losing them from the grade 9-10 panel to the 11-12 panel. And when I looked over those stats, I think we're losing many. So I'm not quite sure how to frame this, if someone can help me here. But I'd like a report brought back on what we're doing at the board to engage these students.
The whole directs the director to bring back a report on, is it a retaining? Are we retaining our French students?
Students in the French programs.
In grade 10, 11?
Yeah, I guess through you, Chair, perhaps the clarification is that I think the interest would be that we would like more of our students to continue with their French education within our secondary schools, particularly in grade 11 and 12. So the notion of the retention of the students are still with us, it's just they're taking different courses, right? So it's not a case of us losing those students. I believe it's a case of them choosing other courses to complete their secondary school diploma as opposed to taking French courses. So I think the interest for us is in what are the strategies that we're employing to encourage continuation of French as a second language in the senior years of high school.
I agree with you on that, yeah, certainly. Yeah, it's not a matter of retaining, it's encouraging them to continue. All right, so we have a motion. Hold it during back report on strategies to encourage. Okay, so the motion brought forward by Trustee Swan is the Committee of the Whole directs the Director to bring back a report on strategies to encourage students to continue
French program in the senior year, high school years, is that?
Is this our concern is grade 11 and 12, right, Trustee Swan? Or
Correct.
all of high
It
school?
seems a lot of the youth pick other subjects because they want their grades up to get admission into universities and colleges, and I just think we have to do something to encourage them to stay with their French as well.
Okay, so we'll have the report come back. The motion is the Committee of the Whole directs the Director to bring back a report on strategies to encourage students to continue in French programming. Is that fine with you, Trustee Swan?
That's fine.
Thank you. Seconded by Trustee McAllister. Any comments? Questions? We have a timeline on this, Superintendent Dawes, to be able to come back to a report with this. How much time are we looking at?
Superintendent Allen may have an opinion on that.
Okay, Superintendent Allen?
I would say our team is working on this right now, so I would say sometime after Christmas, well, of course, maybe February, March.
Let's look at February, a February meeting then, please. Okay, so we have a mover and a seconder. The Committee of the Whole direct the Director to bring back a report in February 2015 on strategies to encourage students to continue in French programming. I'll ask you to cast your vote. You're just not coming up. Oh, it's up now. It's working now. Mine's working. Okay. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
In favor?
Thank you so much. And Trustee Bill McPherson? He's in favor, thank you. So we have all in favor with the exception of Trustee McDonald, Opposed? That carries. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to move back into the regular board meeting. Moved by Trustee Cram, seconded by Trustee Kirkner. Ask your votes, please. And everyone is in favor. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
In favor?
Thank you. That carries. And there's a report from private session, November 26, 2014. At its committee of the whole meeting in private session, 2 contractual matters were discussed. 1 recommendation was brought forward at the board meeting on November 26, 2014. Report from the committee of the whole public session, November 26, 2014. 2 presentations and 6 discussion items were shared at the November 26 meeting, and the following recommendations are brought forward to the board. The first motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board establish targeted levels of accumulated surplus available for compliance unappropriated at a minimum of 0.5% of the Upper Canada District School Board's annual operating budget. I need a mover. Trustee Kirkner. Seconded by Trustee McAllister. Comments? Questions? I'll ask you to cast your vote, please. Trustee Bill McPherson. Whoops. Just lost my page. Trustee Bill McPherson, I can't see on the screen. You're in favor? Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Motion number 2, that the Upper Canada District School Board establish targeted levels of total accumulated surplus available for compliance, less commitments at a minimum of 2% of the Upper Canada District School Board's annual operating allocation. I need a mover. Trustee McAllister. Trustee Cram. Okay. Comments, questions? I should cast your vote, please. That carries. Thank you very much. Motion 3, motion that the Upper Canada District School Board create the whistleblower policy as submitted to Committee of Whole November 26, 2014. Moved by anyone online want to move this, please?
I'd move it.
Thank you, Trustee Swan. Trustee
McDonald, second.
McDonald, seconds. The motion, comment, questions? Cast your vote, please. And all in favor? That carries. Thank you very much. Brings us to the next item, which is a report from the nominating committee. Following the inaugural meeting, the committee of the chair and first vice and second vice chair sat down along with the recommendations that you folks had filled in as to areas of your interest. And to go back to a comment that I made at the inaugural meeting, this is a strength that I believe the former chair had, where he was able to identify the strengths of the state. So in making our decision, we looked at your choices, and we looked at skill set and strengths that we hope that you have, or we know that you have, and we put you into the various committees. So I'm going to read, it's a fairly long motion, and instead of making it short, I'm going to read it out just so we know who is involved in what. So the motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board approve the following trustee appointments to take effect December the 10th, 2014. Audit Committee, Jeremy Armour, David McDonald, and John McAllister. Parent Involvement Committee, Jeremy Armour. Special Education Advisory Committee, which is SEAC, Bill McPherson and Susan Richards as primary members and Wendy McPherson as alternate member. Suspension, Appeal, and Expulsion Committee, Carol Kartner, Peter Garrow, John McAllister, and Lisa Swan. Supervise Alternative Learning, the SAL program, Donald Cram and William McPherson. Native Agreement, Carol Kartner. OPSPA Director and Voting Delegate, David McDonald. OPSPA, Alternate Director and Voting Delegate, John McAllister. Accountability Framework Committee, Jeremy Armour, Carol Kartner, Donald Cram, John McAllister, David McDonald, and Jeff McMillan. I need this motion moved by
McDonald.
Trustee Armour, seconded by Trustee McDonald. Any comments, questions?
Trustee Garrow.
Trustee Garrow, go ahead.
Yeah, the alternate director and voting delegate, John McAllister, is not a voting delegate. OPSPA First Nation director is a voting delegate.
Yeah, no, I think, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Trustee McDonald, please.
Trustee McAllister would be the alternate director and alternate voting member in the absence of myself.
Oh, okay. But I'm also a voting delegate?
Yes.
Yeah, but not appointed by Upper Canada.
Yes.
Okay.
Is that clear, Trustee Garrow?
Yes, it is.
That explains it. Trustee Kartner?
Would it be all right with the trustees if we were to add a note that Peter Garrow is a voting director represented by, or elected by OPSPA, just to make note of the committee he is on? Is that possible? Perhaps through David McDonald, he could answer that?
Trustee McDonald?
You can make note of it, but as I indicated, Trustee Garrow is voted on by the First Nation trustees to be their voting delegate and their representative. So that's why he's not listed as an.
Okay, and I think we should just leave it that way. Okay. So we have a motion before us, moved by Trustee Armour, seconded by Trustee McDonald. Any further comments or questions? Okay, I should cast your votes, please. Thank you very much. That carries. Moves on to the next item, the Director's Annual Report. I'm going to turn this over to...
Chair, Trustee McPherson here. I apologize for my delay on that. My one question was with regards to myself being an alternate. How will I be contacted if Trustee Richards or McPherson can't make it? Like, how does that happen?
I'm going to turn it over to Trustee McAllister, but I think I know the answer, but I'm going to give it to Trustee McAllister, who's on the committee.
Okay, thank you.
What has happened in the past, Trustee McPherson, is that all three of the trustees have attended the meetings, not just on, on a need-be basis or a replacement basis, but that if, for example, one of the other two trustees would be unable to attend, they would contact you and ask that you sit in as the alternate.
And be able to vote?
Yes.
I see. Okay, thank you very much.
Certainly. So it's our hope that you would be there.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, moving on to the Director's Annual Report. Director.
Through you, Chair.
Certainly.
I'm pleased to provide you with a copy of the Director's Annual Report 2013-14. It's in front of you, and I hope that the folks on the telephone are able to access it through the board agenda on board docs. So hopefully we're all looking at the same document. At the outset, I want to extend a particular thank you to Superintendent Phil Dawes, to Terry Davies, Mark Calder, and any other member of the Communications Department who worked diligently to prepare this document that essentially captures the strengths of our system and what we were able to achieve in 2013 and 14. Also, there were a number of other departments that provided additional information to complete the document. So again, thank you to the senior team and to those folks who work with the senior team to provide the information. By way of background, a director's annual report is prepared each year in keeping with ministry expectations and the Education Act. And this year's director's annual report for 2013-14 is released in December to provide information for the Board of Trustees as early as possible into its new term. Trustees will notice that a next level driven theme is embedded throughout this year's report with reference to the Upper Canada District School Board critical success factors on page 6 and outcomes that align with the Upper Canada District School Board key result indicators, beginning with measuring our success on page 13. Some of the highlights from the 2013-14 are provided under our 4 strategic priorities. Strategic priority number 1 you'll find on page 8, and it's about achieving academic excellence and references our focus on math, learning for all students, innovation in instructional practices, our hubs, professional learning system, our crew leadership learning modules for administrators, otherwise known as LLMA, our small school summit, and play-based learning in our kindergarten classes throughout the district. On page 10, you'll find strategic priority 2, ensuring equity. And this section references our equity and inclusion initiatives, our tracking to 2020, international education, Aboriginal education, and our Upper Canada District School Board Champions for Kids Foundation. On page 11, you will find strategic priority number 3, promoting well-being, which references our physical and nutritional literacy focus, our Living Well Charter, character education, student transition support through our Link Crew and web programs, and our efforts to improve school culture through student voice. And our final priority on page 12, enhancing public confidence, which references our Service Excellence Initiative, our commitment to fiscal responsibility, and our efforts in effective communication practices. You will also notice on page 4 and 5 a board profile section in the report and clarification of our new families of school structure. Furthermore, a variety of school and board success stories are offered with links to applicable documentation and video provided throughout the report. For your convenience, hard copies have been provided to you tonight, but upon your receipt, the report will be communicated primarily as a link to the Upper Canada District School Board main page website. That's my report, Chair. I'd be happy to take questions should any arise.
Comments and questions? Online or on the telephone lines?
McDonald.
Excuse me?
It's McDonald, trustee.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee McDonald.
Well, just the first comment, this is the shortest director's report we've ever seen, having been a trustee for over 14 years. So it's concise, it's very good, and I appreciate the effort that was gone into put everything together. I think given the time frame, it was very difficult for Director Patterson to put something together with her short tenure as being director, and so I think it was important that she pulled upon those people. So it's a great document. I like it, and it's to the point that we needed to get the information out. So congratulations, Director Peterson.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald.
Patterson, sorry.
Thank you very much. Other comments, questions? Okay, seeing there are none, again, Director Patterson, thank you very much, and your team that helped put this together. It certainly, as Trustee McDonald said, it's to the point, and your time with us has been very short, but it certainly reflects in here the hard work that you're doing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, moving forward, I'm going to turn the discussion over to Director again. We're looking at a request to rescind the motion to review the TR Leger program by a third-party provider. So I'm going to turn it over to the Director. This is your request, and we'll go from the motions from there.
Thank you. So I certainly recognize that in February 26, 2014, there was a motion approved at the board table to conduct a TR Leger review of program and have that review conducted by a third party. And I was in discussions with the chairs and vice chairs. I came to understand that if I felt that we had the capacity within our organization to conduct a review of TR Leger programs across our district, that I would bring that concept forward to you for consideration, that the review be done internally as opposed to turning it over to a third party. Now, I have to say, given the expertise of the senior team in the Upper Canada School Board, I have every confidence that that the review could be conducted internally. I also recognize that it behooves us to look beyond our borders to seek effective practices in alternative education. And certainly it would be one of the requirements of the review that we would go beyond our borders to understand those effective practices. I will also comment that across the province, we are recognized as one of those effective practices. And so where opportunity arises to celebrate the work of alternative education in Upper Canada, I would hope that would be reflected in the review as well. I am suggesting that the review be conducted under the leadership of Superintendent David Coombs. Superintendent Coombs has an extensive secondary school experience. He's worked in a variety of sites, both regular programs and also alternative programming. He has tremendous credibility in our system and, quite frankly, beyond our borders as well. And I think he is the perfect person to lead a review of our TR Leger programs. It's not a review that can be done single-handedly by Superintendent Coombs or anyone else. So, of course, Superintendent Coombs will be tapping into the expertise of the senior team and others in our board, and particularly those who are associated with our secondary programming. So I put to you tonight the possibility of rescinding the motion from February the 26th, 2014, and rather adopting the motion that I present, that the TR Leger program review be conducted internally under the leadership of David Coombs, Superintendent of School Operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director. So this request has two parts. And so we'll deal with the first part, and if the first part passes, then we will move forward. If it doesn't, then it's redundant. So the first motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board rescind the following motion passed February 26, 2014, that the Upper Canada District School Board review the TR Leger program to be conducted by a third-party provider. Do I have a mover for that? Trustee McAllister, seconded by someone online?
McDonald.
Trustee McDonald, thank you very much. Comments or questions regarding this motion? Trustee McAllister?
In retrospect, I support this motion to rescind. I do believe we have the expertise within our senior staff to conduct this review. It's interesting, it made me think though that the TR Leger alternative school is named after Mr. Rosaire Leger, a former director in one of our predecessor boards, Stormont Dundas and Glengarry. And while I'm sure all the other three predecessor boards had various alternative programs, This one was one of the initial ones in the province, I believe, and was exemplary. So I support the program, and I support, nevertheless, a review of it so that it can be improved.
Any other comments or questions? Thank you, Trustee McAllister. Anyone on the telephone lines, comments, questions?
No comment on the rescinding of this motion.
Pardon me?
I was going to comment on the other.
Okay, hang on.
Motion.
Yep, we'll come back to you then when we get to the next motion. Trustee Farmer?
What was the original reason why we were going to review the program?
The original intent?
Trustees.
Yeah, there's
I'm trying to reflect back on that.
I'll start the conversation through you, Chair,
Yes.
but perhaps Superintendent Barkley can assist as well, because I believe it came out of a budget discussion. So I don't know what the root of it was through the budget discussion, but I'm not sure if Superintendent Barkley has a recollection of that.
Superintendent Barkley?
Through you, Chair, my recollection is it was during a budget discussion, but it did stem from our enrollment coming in lower than had been projected, in particular TR Leger. I believe that's what it stemmed from.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, go ahead, Trustee McDonald.
Yeah, I would agree with Director Patterson and Superintendent Barkley. It was, I think the catalyst was that we had a differential of about 100 or so students that created a situation for us, and then further discussion came up about how the ministry would look at removing students from the full-time enrollment if they were missing 15 classes, consecutive classes, that type of thing. So we looked at service delivery that we were offering because of that differentiation between what we estimate and what we actually get in the door from month to month. So that was the catalyst of asking for this review.
Yep, you're correct. Does that answer your question? Okay, seeing there are no more questions, comments on that particular motion. Again, I'll read the motion that the Upper Canada District School Board rescind the following motion passed February 26, 2014, that the Upper Canada District School Board review the TR Leger program to be conducted by a third-party provider. Cast your votes, please. Trustee Armour?
In favor.
Favor? And Trustee, all in favor, thank you very much. That carries. This takes us to the second motion. The Upper Canada District School Board review the TR Leger program to be conducted internally under the leadership of David Coombs, Superintendent of School Operations. I need a mover. Trustee Karkner, seconded by?
Trustee Garrow.
Thank you. Trustee Garrow. Comments, questions? Trustee Cramp?
Is there any reporting date back to the board that will occur with this motion?
Well, the motion right now is started off with the rescinding of the motion and just approving an internal. So there would be no need for a time on this one right now, I don't believe. Yes?
Agree with Trustee Crum if there is a need.
Well, I'm looking at the motion itself, because in the initial motion when we did it, we did not have a time, I don't believe.
But we have voted on that first part.
Pardon me?
We're now on the second part.
I know. I'm going back to the original motion. I don't believe we had a date in the original motion that we rescinded. So I'm just saying, if we didn't, or did we have one at that point? I don't believe so.
Through you, Chair, I don't believe there was a date on the original motion, but certainly I know that in our confident approach to things, Superintendent Coombs has already started to think about the scope of the project and a realistic time to come back to complete the project and also come back and report to the board. So I think it would be unfair to pose that, to determine a date right now, but certainly we can come back within, I'm sure, well, in January, and confirm that we have a date.
I certainly understand what you're saying in terms of the date, but we didn't have a date in the original setting up the motion to have a, taking a look at reviewing the TR Leisure Aid program. However, I'm certainly not opposed to adding a date to the second motion.
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
Through you, Chair, I wonder if perhaps it would be helpful if Superintendent Coombs came back, I'll say in February, and was able to provide a status update of what the project entails, the scope of it, the timelines, this sort of thing.
Okay. At this point, what I'd like to do is we'll get the second motion taken care of, because there could be a lot of questions, a lot of debate come out of it. So the second motion is the Upper Canada District School Board review the TR Leger program to be conducted internally under the leadership of David Coombs, Superintendent of Operations. So I need a mover. Who do I have for that? Sorry. Trustee Cartner, seconded by Trustee Garrow. Now, comments or questions? Trustee McDonald, you wanted to comment on this one?
Sure. Yeah, I like Director Patterson's thinking, because that's what I was going to suggest. I think the fact that we didn't have a timeline associated to the original motion passed in February, and we're now in December, and we had some difficulty in moving forward with that. It's important for us to move forward. I would like to try and see something wrapped up, so that if we need to have any budget implications, we can have some discussion for that. However, I think it's important for us that we take our time and do it right. And so if we have a status report in February, I think that's, to me, I'm satisfactory to me anyway, to be able to get that information and establish the timeline once we have that information. I do also want to just indicate that I think the fact that it's moved from an external to an internal source is fine by me as well, and I think it's important for us that we look at the resources that we have. The one caveat that I do have is that we need to identify, in whatever word we want to use, best practices or world-class delivery models elsewhere. We need to look at that, because sometimes when we only look in-house, we fail to see what else might be available for us, or a different way of thinking. So I think it's good for us to do the self-evaluation, I guess, to some degree is what it is, but also looking to see and being creative to see how we can still deliver it and meet potentially more needs of individuals in our community. So I'm supportive of this, and happy with if we could amend to have that status report put into a February timeframe.
Thank you, Trustee McDonald. Any other comments, questions? Thank you. I'll ask you to cast your vote on that. So out of that discussion, before I get into this, that carries. Trustee Wendy McPherson?
Yeah, for some reason it didn't come up. In favor.
Okay, thank you. That carries. Thank you so much. Coming out of that, Trustee McDonald, do you want to bring forward a motion to direct the director to have Superintendent Coombs do a status report in February?
Sure, I would be happy to move that director provide a status report in February on the TR Leger review, or whatever we've called it.
Okay, you're going to move that. I need a seconder, and I'll read it out in a second here. Trustee
Lisa Swan.
Okay.
McPherson will second it also.
Okay, so who did I have first? Okay, Trustee Cram and Trustee Wendy McPherson. Move that the Upper Canada District School Board direct the director to provide a status update February 2015 on the TR Leger program review. Comments, questions? Thank you very much. Let's cast your vote on that. Pardon me? Trustee Wendy McPherson. Trustee Cram. Okay, cast your votes, please.
I'm in favor.
Okay. And okay, that's, thank you. Trustee Bill McPherson. Okay, that carries. Thank you very much. It brings us to the next item. This is can be fairly lengthy. We are looking at the request to amend the board bylaws, and you should have those in front of you, or they were sent to you the other day. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and just really talk about the sections that are highlighted or crossed out, and really the intent behind this is to really clean up our bylaws and to bring them more in line into as to what we actually do, or what we need to do as outlined in the Education Act. And having said that, I think it's important to realize, or to make mention, that the Education Act does trump our bylaws. And so even though we clean them up, Education Act really has first dibs on this stuff. Okay, so as we go through, and I think what I'll do is, let's figure out how I'm going to move my screen here. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, so we start off by eliminating the Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedures and replacing that with the American Institute of Parliamentary Standard Code of Parliamentary Behaviors. We can have a discussion about that, but right now the idea is really to nail down exactly which one of these we want to use. And you know, this is the Sturgis one, right? Yes. Okay, so we're moving over to the Sturgis from the Robert's Rules. Sturgis is a little less formal, a little more flexibility. Am I correct?
Currently, we're using the Sturgis Standard Code of
Yes.
Procedure 4th edition.
Yeah.
This is the American Institute of Parliamentary Procedures, which has taken Sturgis and really updated it, revised it, and made it more current with today's.
It's no longer Sturgis.
No. Do we have copies, or will we be getting copies for all the trustees?
Lisa Swan, may I just ask, it was very hard, I think it was Lisa Workman speaking, but it was very hard to hear her online.
Well, she's just giving me an update in terms of, we're just repeat that for us, because Lisa works with this.
Currently, we use Alice Sturgis Standard Code of Parliamentary Procedure 4th edition. The American Institute of Parliamentarians has revised that Sturgis 4th edition and have made it more current and more in line with today's standard practices. And that's
Okay, so that's the rationale why we've done that. Moving down, Management Council. We just crossed out a word. The Management Council will meet to set board meeting agendas and to facilitate relationships between administration and the board. Again, just cleaning up the language. It's not as needed. We have actually a set schedule when we do that.
Can I say something?
You certainly can.
Okay, thank you, Trustee McPherson. In this one, do we not have already a procedural bylaw where that would fit better?
In terms of
how the process of agenda building and how you get items on the agenda and so forth? I thought we already had a procedural bylaw which sort of identifies how, or because if in my case, looking at it, when we were on council, we had a procedural bylaw which spoke to how agenda is built, who does it, and what have you, and how you get items on. Whereas in this one here, you tell how the agenda, who makes it, but you don't say of how to get items onto the agenda, I guess is my point.
Okay. No, and I don't believe we have that in our bylaws, but it's certainly something that we should be taking a good look at, so all trustees have a full understanding of how that process works.
Thank you.
So, good point. Thank you so much. Just moving down the screen, we're looking at the inaugural meeting. A lot of the information in the first few pages deals with the inaugural meeting and the fact that it is to be held at a certain specific time in December. Moving down to the organizational meeting, we've crossed out words. If there's any questions, I'm going through it fairly quickly because a lot of it is just cleaning up language. Trustee Cartner?
Are we removing inaugural and in just after Article 3?
Article 3.
Or we did it add it in?
Added it.
Yep,
Okay.
in addition. Okay. Where was I here? Okay, and just scrolling down the screen. Again, a lot of this stuff in the very beginning deals with the inaugural meeting, the election of the chair and the first, vice, and second chair. Apologize for the slowness. I'm just scrolling through this thing myself. Dealing with the honorarium of the chairs, there were some sections that we crossed out there. Those sections that were crossed out had to do with a motion that was brought forward. Policy 312, and it was dealing with honorariums at various committees. And what the board decided at that point is that we would not be paying the honorarium if we didn't pay it for all the boards, and it was only for some boards that the decision was that we would, for being paid for attendance, that we wouldn't pay it for any of them. So that's exactly what that strikes at. Mileage in terms of getting there is always paid for, but the actual attendance fee is no longer part of what we do. The nominating committee, as we just went through, we took a good look at that, and again, that's just, did we added those items in there? I mean, yes, parent involvement was not in there in the past. And we changed the discipline committee back to the name that it actually is, and that's suspension and expulsion. We've crossed out the appointments of the committee shall be for the term of the board. That's a suspension. And to the new trustees, and actually even trustees like myself who haven't been involved in all the committees, if we have questions, I strongly urge you to talk to trustees that have been on those committees to get kind of an idea of what goes on there. Special committees, I think I missed that one. We crossed out that the special meeting, shall be the duty of the Secretary of the Board to convene a special meeting of the board when requested to do so in writing in 3 days, or in writing by 3 members. We crossed that out. Trustee attendance to attend regular and special board meetings. A trustee is not entitled to be present at a meeting that is closed to the public under the Education Act. We're talking about a student trustee. I think what happened in the past, we've not enforced this the way we probably should have sometimes. So the student trustee really is not a part of any of our private discussions. And that's just a matter of cleaning that up. We move into 5.50, expectations of scheduled dates for the meeting of the board. We've crossed out the section that deals with any regular scheduled meeting that is conflict with a board holiday. The chair will reschedule the preceding or following Wednesday of that month, and it's now been at the discretion of the chair. Any regular scheduled meeting that is in conflict with a board holiday, the chair will cancel and may reschedule. 6.0 is just cleaning up some of the order, combining a couple. Looking at unfinished business where applicable. We usually get our business finished. Moving down into reference regular meetings. Again, we just added regular board meetings in that area. 6.15, crossing out printed and putting electronic agendas. I'm going to rely heavily on board docs.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, go ahead.
6.1 and 6.2 6.15 deals with getting items on an agenda.
6 point,
Just to answer the other comment, Trustee.
oh, I see. Oh, I see, additions to the agenda, 6.15.
Oh, is that it there?
Yes, Trustee McPherson, yes, 6.15. The addition, now, setting the agenda for all meetings with the board shall be set by the chair and the vice chairs in concert with the director of education and the secretary of the board and their designates, and that's when we do that through management council. Additions may be allowed to the agenda if the secretary of the board and the chair of the board have been notified of the matter to be presented 6 hours prior to the time set at the starting of the meeting. The secretary or the chair shall place these items in an appropriate agenda section following those listed on the electronic agenda. So you're correct that there is a procedure, but we do a lot of the setting of the agenda through management council.
Right. I guess my question was, does it need to be a written, or can I mean, it does say that there are additions to the agenda, but I'm assuming that's like, when I read that, I thought that was when we go into a meeting 6 hours before I have something added to that agenda, I had to have told you I'm going to ask to have that added or something to that effect, was kind of how I read that one.
It has to come through me, certainly.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so therefore, I would ask you to have it in writing so I can be very clear in terms of what you're asking for.
Right. And okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Trustee McDonald, anything you want to add in that area?
No, you covered it. Everything. You move it through management council, and those items can be brought to your attention.
I guess my point was that there was no. Do I bring it to you as, like in the previous, when I was on municipal council, we had a resolution. I had to get somebody else who agreed to have this item that I wanted to speak to get it to be spoken to. I had to have a seconder, and I brought it in a resolution to have it put onto the agenda. It was very clear on how we do that. Here, I guess I'm speaking with you, Jeff,
yes.
And the director, the secretary.
Yes.
And I would do that in writing.
I would ask you to do it in writing, yes.
Mm-hmm. And that's clear. I think that's great that it would be in writing. However, it doesn't say that here.
Okay, we can take a look at that as well.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Through you, Chair, it's Lisa Swan, trustee.
Yes, go ahead.
In regards to 2.05 Management Council, and I think this kind of goes along with what Trustee McPherson is saying. Perhaps when items are brought to Management Council, I've been a trustee for 4 years, we've never seen minutes of the meetings of Management Council, of what was brought forward and what comes forward to board meetings. And I think that would be a very good learning tool for us all, and also to know what other trustees feel is important to bring to the table, and maybe we have similar issues. So perhaps we can get some minutes put in this bylaw as a requirement of Management Council. Just a suggestion.
Well, to the best of my knowledge, and actually, I'm going to ask Trustee McDonald in a second to jump in because he's been a part of Management Council longer than I have. To the best of my knowledge, we would not keep formal minutes from that meeting. It's a matter of going down a list of agenda items. It's a matter of scheduling them into a timetable, into a calendar. It's a matter of being sure that what's going to be coming to the board, the people are ready, the reports are looking the way the board would like to see them, make sure that everyone is prepared. There certainly is, everything is very upfront, and there's absolutely nothing, there's no hidden agenda behind anything that happens in Management Council. Trustee McDonald, I'm going to ask your comment on that.
Mr. Chair, you're absolutely correct. There is no formal minute process associated to this. It is a scheduling type meeting that we establish future board and committee meeting agendas, and any items that are brought forward by individual trustees are placed in the queue, and we try to determine where we can fit them in on the agenda. As discussions appear with individual trustees and the chair, that's how things are brought forward to Management Council for new items. So sometimes there's discussions, and sometimes it's agreed upon that it's not something that's going to move forward. But there is a process that we try to make sure that the meetings are smooth, so that we don't have everything overlapped. Sometimes we're successful at that, sometimes we're not. But really, that's the purpose of management council.
Okay. Trustee Swan, does that answer your question?
Yes, to an extent, but I just thought it in the whole thing of transparency. It's a meeting to get to a meeting. It's a meeting that you have to bring ideas through you, Chair, to get to the board table. And I just think if we could even have some kind of agenda items or some kind of paperwork there for the trustees to know what's coming or what could be coming to the board table. And I think we all share the same views as student first, et cetera, but I'd like to see what is coming and what isn't coming to the board table. And that's just my opinion.
If I may, Chair, when I was on the municipal council, that was the purpose of the resolution, that everybody got to see it. It was tabled and then brought to the next meeting, so everybody could see what was trying to get to be spoken to.
Okay, now, I want to make this clear. These lists are not a secret. They're not something that cannot be seen by anyone. It's just it's a list that's a working list, and it's constantly changing. And it's really just a planning list, but there's, I can't stress enough that there really is no hidden agenda behind what we do. It's just a matter of going through requests for what will be coming for the board. If there are things that a trustee has asked us to bring to management council, and after discussion we don't feel it's an item that should be going to the board, we always have a conversation with that trustee to clarify why it didn't come to, why it wouldn't be put on the agenda. It's just probably was something that wouldn't fit into exactly what would be a topic that the board would be discussing. Mr. McAllister.
I'd like to point out for the edification of everybody that those management council lists are available. They're in the library on board docs, and they are listed, and I'm looking at one right now for 2014, September the 22nd. So I think the information trail is definitely there.
Oh, there's absolute transparency. You can see these lists anytime.
Oh, if I may, Chair, through you, I'm not questioning any wrongdoing by anybody. I was just trying to, as a newbie, trying to find ways of how I would address things, and it's so much easier to see it written to go, okay, that's what I do. Okay, then I'll go do that. You know, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
I was just looking for direction. I'm not accused. I have no.
Just I'm not taking it that way at all.
Okay, good.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Where was I now? I think we're down into section 6.20. Okay, so this is the delivery of the agendas. The Secretary of the Board shall assure that the agendas for all board meetings are made available to the public through the board's website at least 2 days prior to the rescheduled start, or to the scheduled start of the meeting. The agenda will be made available to trustees at least 3 days prior to the scheduled start of the meeting, which means that they have to come to us on Monday. And so all efforts have to be made by everyone that's involved in working on the next board meeting to have everything to Lisa and make sure that we have those agendas ready to go. Moving down. Scroll.
Last page, trustee orientation.
I'm going down to trustee orientation. Is it 12.00 is the this is the last one? Okay, in the event of a vacancy, our board, or on the board, an orientation session as opposed to program will be offered to the replacement members. And that's just a replacement of a word. It's not a program, it would be a session. Okay, so those are the proposed changes to our bylaws. Any comments or question? I know that it was kind of long and drawn out. Let's Seeing there are no comments or questions, I need a mover that the Upper Canada District School Board approve the board bylaws as amended with an effective date of December the 10th, 2014. Moved by Trustee Kartner.
McDonald.
Trustee McDonald. Comments? Questions? Cast your vote, please. Thank you very much. That carries. Moving on to the next, I'm just going to give a very quick update on the accountability framework. And for the new trustees, I'm going to ask you to, when you get the time, I want you to read the Next Level Driven, that report. That will give you a very clear understanding of the journey that we've had over the last 4 years, of bringing forward the accountability framework and the work that the committee did to get to where we are. And as you heard in the director's report, you heard reference to critical success factors, key result indicators, and out of the work of that committee have come that kind of direction, a way for us of assessing the effectiveness of our strategic plan. Two of the key result indicators that have been completed and will be reported to the board probably in February. The two are the Net Promoter Score and the Ipsos survey that was done with our staff. Both of those are ready to be reported to the accountability framework, which will take place in January 21st. And following reporting to that committee, then we will schedule a date through Management Council when it will come to the board for a report. We feel that instead of what happened, just to give a little history, we had the Net Promoter report come to board last year or 2 years, whenever it was, and it did not go through the accountability framework, and it didn't give us a chance on that committee to really narrow down the report in the way that we needed it presented. It came off in a manner that really wasn't as effective as we would have liked to have seen the report. So we're asking that both the Net Promoter folks and Ipsos Reid report to us in the accountability framework before it comes to board. So that's where we're at right now in terms of those key result indicators, but they will come to the board in February, I would assume. Any comments or questions on that? Oh, yes. Okay. You want to take a break for the moment? Okay, if I I'd like to get a motion. I want to take a very short break. Can I get someone to pass a motion to allow me to take a Trustee Kartner? Trustee Cram? Take a 5 minute, give us enough time? 5 minute break, and we'll return at 8:17. Those in favor? Opposed? Anyone opposed on the phone line? Thank you very much. See you in 5 minutes. Okay, thank you very much, folks. Before we, I'm going to ask you to go back into board docs and go out and come on back in, because I think you'll see the change. So I just got to do that myself. Give everyone a few seconds to come back in. I don't get a motion to pay down, so I don't know where to do it. Yes, we're on. Oh yeah, I better. 8:07. Okay, so that small break was so we could, I need a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board amend the agenda to include the addition of a ratification and approval of special education advisory committee appointments. And it's something that we need to do. It's a timely item, and we need to add that to the agenda. So I need that moved by Trustee McAllister, seconded by Trustee Armour. Ask you to cast your votes. Thank you very much. I'm going to pull that up on the screen. Might just read this stuff at the top. Just at the top, Lisa? Trustee Armour, you're in. Trustee McPherson, Trustee McDonald.
Yeah, sure. I just got in.
Do you see it there? When Trustee McPherson, do you see it there?
I do. Good
Okay.
job.
I haven't been able to update it though.
Okay, so I'm just reading this top section, I assume. Okay. Oh, there it is right there. Okay, so I have a motion that the Upper Canada District School Board ratify the appointment of Kathy Blair, Integration Action for Inclusion, Leeds and Grenville, Melinda Long, Schizophrenia Society of Ontario, Debbie Terrence, First Nation Representative, Lisa Vreeman, Autism Ontario, Kimberly Wright, Brockville and District Association for Community Involvement, Donna Matheson, Brockville and District Association of Community Involvement, an alternate to Special Education Advisory Committee, effective from December the 1st, 2014, until November the 30th, 2018. Are there two motions or just two motions? Okay, so that's the first motion. Okay, so I need a mover of that motion. Moved by anyone online?
Wendy McPherson?
Thank you.
Trustee McPherson?
Thank you. Trustee McPherson, Wendy McPherson, seconded by?
Trustee Swan.
Trustee Swan, thank you. Any comments or questions about that? It's an appointment thing. Thank you very much. Cast your votes, please.
I'm having some problems logging on.
Are you in favor?
I'm in favor.
Thank you. And that carries. And the second motion is that the Upper Canada District School Board ratify the appointment of the following individuals as members at large on the Special Education Advisory Committee, effective from December the 1st, 2014 until November the 30th, 2018. And that is Kevin Breeson, Shelley Graham, and Deborah Wood. Moved by Trustee Karkner, Trustee McAllister. Comments, questions? Thank you. Cast your votes. And that carries. Thank you very much. That moves us on to the standing item report from the Ontario Public School Board Association. Director David McDonald, you have a report?
Yeah, I make sure I'm off mute. Just wanted to bring a quick report to you. From a legislative update, the House will be resuming, or sorry, I guess adjourning, December 11th. So after December 11th, they will be out in constituency areas until February, I want to say 17th. I'm going to find my date. Yep, Tuesday, February 17th. So December 11th through to February 17th, not much will happen. You may see some regulations, those types of things, but from a legislative standpoint, I talked about a couple of bills that we're moving through. One of them was the Child Care Modernization Act. That obviously has gone through and had some readings. It was received royal assent, and we'll continue to monitor, OPSPO will continue to monitor actual proclamation, which the schedule will come into force. There's some speculation that that's not going to happen until September 2015. So that is complete, the Modernization Act. You'll know that that included many different pieces. Bill 8, the Public Sector and MPP Accountability and Transparency Act. I have to go and look, but there's an expectation that was going to pass this week, and before the House sits, or I guess stands. So that one would affect us coming in the new year as well. And Ryan's Law, which is Bill 20, probably won't see much on that until January, whenever some of the information comes forward. This is basically dealing with students who have asthma and trying to make it more asthma friendly. Just that's a quick update on the legislation. At the meeting we had 2 weeks ago, I guess now, a number of items were shared. In particular interest, I think, for trustees is as we move forward as an organization, OPSPA, as an organization, we always do our best to advocate for public education and advocate for our member boards. There's a briefing that was completed and submitted to the ministry for the 2015-16 education funding consultation. That briefing or guide was completed and sent in. I can make sure that I can find some soft copies and make that available for trustees. It's in line with everything that we've talked about previously, from an OPSPA standpoint, and lining up with our key works, our key priorities as an organization. That the key work for those new trustees, important to note, I guess. There are five main areas: the whole child and student well-being, new generation education, trustees building leadership capacity, labor relations, and education funding. So everything that we do leads into those priorities, that key work, and is reflected in all the comments that we make to the ministry, or any other ministry for that matter that may have an impact on education. But I'll get copies of that out for trustees. These were all handed out at the meeting in hard copy format. One other piece of information that's interesting: the ministry is moving forward with a new pupil accommodation review guideline. The pupil accommodation guideline basically looks at how the ARCs were formed in the past and the work of the ARCs, and the involvement of committee, community members, municipalities, and the feedback that was received by those particular stakeholders. A number of recommendations or changes are going to be moving forward with review guidelines. Those areas are around the role of the committee membership, municipal involvement, the timelines, optional shortened process, reports, and school information profiles. So in particular, around the role of the committee, previously committee provided options and voted on recommendations. Moving forward, the committee would focus on being a conduit of information sharing between the school board and affected school communities. The committee would comment on school board administration initial report, so a bit of a change. Rather than putting something out and allowing for review from an ARC, the I guess recommendation from the board would go out and receive feedback. No committee voting or consensus on final recommendation would be required, and committee may provide other options with supporting rationale for each option. Committee membership: previously the committee must include members from a broader community. Proposed changes would be ARC members would be parent guardian representatives from schools under review and school board administration. Broader community feedback would be sought through open public meetings or delegations. The next piece of interest is municipal involvement. We know from our Boundary 2020 experience that we've had some municipalities that were more active and more involved than others. Current process is municipalities can be involved as an ARC member with no other formal role. The proposed change would be more defined role for municipalities in the process, 2 minimum methods of municipal involvement: technical support to school board administration for the initial report, and school board to formally invite senior municipal administration and our municipal councilors to share information on the upcoming accommodation reviews. School board option to include municipal representation to be an ARC member, and municipalities would maintain the opportunity to attend and provide input through public delegations. Timelines: minimum of 4 public meetings over 7 months is the current process. Proposed changes would be shorten the minimum process from 7 months to 7 months with 4 public meetings to 5 months with 2 open public meetings. Decrease the minimum requirement from 90 days to 60 days for public consultation period. And decrease minimum requirements from 60 days to 30 days between school board administration final report and board trustee vote. The next area was optional shortened process. One accommodation review process with no opportunity for a faster process to differentiate between local circumstances is our current situation. The proposed situation would be an optional shortened accommodation review can be utilized with a minimum process of 2.5 months, no committee required, minimum requirement of 1 open public meeting with no committee consultation. Shortened process would be based on 1 or more prescribed factors: distance to nearest available accommodation, utilization rate of the facility, number of students enrolled at the school, and elective programming available at the school. Factors would be customized for local school board circumstances, and factors must be locally consulted on and a board of trustees approved. Reports and school information profiles. This is the current would be recommendations not needed in school board administrative initial report. So previously, as I said, it was more open-ended. We would provide information out to the public. Now, school board administration initial report must contain 1 or more options, including a recommended option with supporting rationale for each option. School board administration's initial report must include information on action taken prior to process, i.e. partnerships, joint use of school and with determinants boards, etc., and supporting rationale why the actions were not suitable. Current process is the ARC report provides options and recommendations. Proposed change would be ARC report would be a summary of committee consultation feedback, including options developed by the committee members with supporting rationale. Current process, the school information profiles to consider value to the student, school board, community, and local economy. The new process proposed change would be the school information profiles would be an orientation documentation with the school board and school data instead of 4 existing board evaluation considerations. And finally, that was it. So those changes are being proposed and moving forward by the ministry. You can see that it's shortening the time frame, is changing the role to some degree. There's a few issues around this, and Catalyst, I think, we've heard some of the information from Superintendent Hobbs previously about utilization of schools, and obviously the ministry looks at that and is trying to include that in their fiscal budget process as they move forward. So that's an important piece for us as we move forward, or all boards across Ontario, quite honestly, as we move forward to understand that role and how we will move forward if we were to move into those types of accommodation reviews again. There is more information as well that I will share if I can get soft copies for everyone or make photocopies around French. I apologize. Around too many papers on my, there we go. There's a provincial working group on FSL, and there's a document that moved forward on French as a second language, student proficiency and confidence pilot project. And this is a synopsis of the findings. The pilot project was run in 2013-2014, and I think it's imperative that this information be used whenever that previous motion came forward. it has been an issue across the province, and obviously it's something that we need to have in our hands when we look at French delivery. It's something worth a read for individual trustees and administration as we move forward. Document is prepared by Dr. Catherine Reiner from the University of Toronto, and regarding the links between student proficiency and confidence in French into 3 different levels in the grade 12 students from 14 different public school boards. I'll just share that information with trustees. The next couple of pieces were really just around some updates around program and policy, and I know the trustees Karkner and McAllister will have some information to share on that. And I believe that's my report, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Any comments or questions of Director McDonald?
Through you, Chair, Trustee Swan.
Yes, Trustee Swan.
In regards to the ARCs, will this be posted in board docs, or will we get emails from Lisa Workman in regards to the documentation coming from OTSA for the changes?
Yeah, I have a hard copy right now. It's a slide deck that's provided by the ministry. And if I can obtain a soft copy, then we will do that. Otherwise, we'll have to photocopy this and provide it, either scan it and send it out to you, or photocopy and provide it in your mailbox.
Thank you so much, because I'd be very interested in that. Trustee McDonald, and a secondary question through you, Chair.
Yes.
You mentioned Ryan's Law, and I'm very understanding of what that is in regards to asthma. Now, recently, I've been reading also about something else coming forward in regards to children with diabetes and carrying their own needles. Has anything with that come through OTSA yet?
I haven't seen anything yet as far as a bill that was introduced that I'm aware of right now. However, if it is, Jennifer McIntyre would be quick to point that out to us and share that out. I think all trustees do receive the report from Jennifer at OPSPA on the updates of legislation, but unless it was included in something else.
It was one of the all news reports, and somebody was bringing this as a private member's bill, so maybe it hasn't made it that far yet.
Yeah. The only other one that I see that's coming forward is the Bill 45, Making Healthier Choices Act. It's still fairly early. We're not sure how it's going to impact schools. But I don't see anything yet as far as the one for diabetes. So it may only come whenever the House resumes. Trustee Swan in February.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Trustee McAllister, Trustee Karkner, did you have anything you want to add? Trustee Karkner?
I attended a program and education committee meeting last Friday in Toronto, and I'll be bringing a report forward on that. But one thing I would like to do is to thank Director Patterson and Superintendent Hobbs and Superintendent Allen for their input that they provided for me to take to that particular meeting. It was very useful, and one of the few boards in Eastern Ontario that did respond, so I was very proud to say that I belong to that board. So there'll be more coming out, and as I said, I'll prepare a written report for Lisa to put on to board docs for you.
Thank you. Trustee McAllister?
I think I included everything in my last report last week, I believe.
Good. Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Director McDonald, for your report.
Trustee Garrow.
Trustee Garrow, go ahead.
Yeah, just to let everybody know that we've had a couple changes with members going on our program and committee and from the Native trustees, and we will be meeting at PEZ to name, I guess, a number of putting forward some candidates anyway. We'll name some people that will be on those boards and with their alternates. And just to let you know that, of course, we did talk about PEZ coming up at the end of January. And there is, of course, a session on orientation session for new trustees, and also, I guess, wish to announce that there will be a couple new trustees from Akwesasne Mohawk Board of Education that will be attending.
Perfect.
Good.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Trustee Garrow. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair, if I just
Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Trustee Garrow reminded me of PEZ, but at PEZ as well, there will be a regional meeting, and for new trustees that are going to be attending, or for any trustee for that matter, the regional meetings are the Board of Education that are in Eastern Ontario, Renfrew, Ottawa, Carleton, Upper Canada, Limestone, and Hastings, Prince Edward. We'll meet briefly at PEZ, and then we'll have a further meeting. I think when the next meeting is. In any event, we'll discuss that. Regional meetings are open to all trustees. We do move them around from board to board, so I think the next one is due in Ottawa, if I'm not mistaken. Could be Brockville for that matter, but those are open to all trustees, and during those meetings we talk about items that other regions would be discussing and provide feedback through to the board of directors. So if you're attending, look for it as an item. Typically it's on the Saturday morning, and as I said, everyone's welcome to attend and just see how a regional meeting would be conducted.
Thank you very much. Any more comments, questions on that? Thank you. That brings us to the director. Do you have any comments, closing remarks?
Comments, if I may?
You certainly can.
I just wanted to report on a meeting that took place last Friday with the Ministry of Education. It was our board improvement plan for student achievement meeting, and it was very positive and productive. We were well represented around the table. I was one of my first meetings, and certainly the first one I attended in the capacity of director. But Superintendent Val Allen, Phil Dawes, and Susan Edwards were in attendance, and as were Scott Corden, Frank Hummel, Terry Gardner, and Vice Principal Laurie Taylor. And it was very good dialogue around the table, and it was apparent to the ministry that we have a very sincere initiative and a commitment to the improvement of our student learning. And I have to say that the ministry was well impressed, and rightly so, at the expertise of the folks around the table and the leads of various initiatives. And those initiatives included our math hubs for our junior students, student success, school effectiveness, and equity and inclusion. So I certainly want to thank the senior team and the principals who attended that meeting. I think we're on the right path, and a very positive one as we work with the ministry in that regard. And secondly, on Monday of this past week, we had a leadership learning module for administrators. We call it LLMA, where all of our principals gathered in North Grenville Complex in Kemptville. And we essentially have devoted 6 days in the year for this purpose, to essentially build the capacity of our principals, particularly as it relates to student achievement and student well-being. And some of the topics, major topics that we addressed that day were our mental health for students, and there was a presentation by Russ LaRock, who's our mental health lead, where he was able to provide a document that basically maps the mental health strategies that schools and families of schools are using. We also focused, of course, on assessment and evaluation. And last but not least, and very interestingly, it came up this evening, we devoted a considerable chunk of the day to the improvement of French as a second language instruction. So those were two very positive initiatives that I participated in within the last week. And I guess in closing, I'll say I know that the holiday isn't quite upon us yet, but I may not see some of you prior to, so I wish you all the best and a joyous holiday with your family. Stay safe and a Happy New Year, and look forward to seeing you in 2015. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I can't even how many people here remember when 2000 came and the fear we had, everything was shut down, and now we're talking 2015, if someone can tell me where the last 15 years went, I'd like to know. Just my closing remarks, I want to thank everyone for their understanding and patience tonight. This by no means is what a normal meeting looks like. However, we do have the technology that allows us to go forward with meetings when we have situations that does not make it possible for you to be here. But I can't stress enough how important it is to have you here at the table. I think when we are all at the table face to face, it makes a huge difference in terms of how our discussions unfold and how we develop a much better understanding of each other and the relationships that can be built. And that really just happens by being here. So I understand there will be times when we can't make it. Again, you contact me, contact Lisa, inform us what's going on. But please make every effort to be at our meetings. They're very important, and we love having you here. Having said that, there was a report that just came in recently about road conditions. They are getting worse. They're getting worse down towards Morrisburg. I will not sleep well tonight until I know everyone is home safe. It doesn't mean you have to email me to tell me. It just means I need to know you're safe, and if that means for some of you, and I say this and I mean this, if you don't feel you can get home, stop, check into some place where you can be safe, because these are meetings, but there's nothing more important than your life and your safety, so that comes first. So again, I thank you so much for being here. For us, we've got work to do as trustees, but we won't be seeing each other until 2015, so Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, best season wishes, whatever it is you want to hear. We wish you the very, very best, and I'm looking forward to what this board's going to accomplish as we move into the next year. It looks like it's a great team. We're already coming together. It's amazing, and the new trustees, please don't be afraid to ask any of us questions. As you can tell, we're all a pretty friendly bunch. Well, maybe not John, but no, I'm kidding. John's a great guy. You can ask him anything, and he'll probably ask you 10 questions in return. So, John, it's always good having you here. Merry Christmas. Thank you, everyone. I need a motion to adjourn. Trustee Carter. Oh, just a second. Who's that said that?
Trustee McPherson.
All right, Trustee. You got it, Trustee McPherson. Seconded by Trustee Carter. Those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Opposed?
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Same to you. Take care, everyone, and be safe, please.
Safe holidays. Bye.